So Dean Thomas, I'm told, from the grid, can't see it from here where we are, they're a long way down the track from our position, almost at turn 1, but Dean Thomas, expect him to be sideways then as soon as they get off the line here, because it's going to be tricky. Down into turn 1. Oh,
big jump start there.
Hang on a minute.
I
can't believe
Sean
that.
Emmett, that was a huge
I can't believe that. That just wasn't a jump start. I thought that was another warm-up lap, the way they got off the line there. Down into turn 1 then. And Scott Smart right in the middle of that melee. And you've got to say, down the avenue for the first time, they really are going to have to feel their feet. And it's Rutter out front, from Glenn Richards, from Carl Harris, from, yep, that is James Hayden, from Leon Haslam. Or is it Gregorio? It isn't. It's Leon Haslam, I think.
Well, it'd be very difficult being really brave from the third row this time into turn 1.
Well,
the conditions are a lot slicker.
Not bad, though, if he's managed to get to where he is even, because he's right there with his teammate. The two Airways Ducatis are still right together, and Leon had the better starting position. But right now, we're looking at Carl Harris on bike number 9. That is the hondaracing.co.uk bike. Look it up on the web if you want to. That's the man, though, on the HM Plant bike. And Michael Rutter in the rain, on a day like this with the right tyres underneath him, isn't even going to be touched. He's just going to clear off at the front. It's going to be scary the way he leaves away. So we're out of Britons at the moment, finding plenty of grip from the Hawk Kawasaki of 75, Glenn Richards. Then it's 9, Carl Harris. We're at his already. Still trying to look and see who it is for sure in 4th place. Definitely looks like James Hayden to me. Hayden, I'm sure, is in 4th place at the moment on Rizzo Suzuki. That is a great start from him. And then is Gregorio Lavia, followed by, looks like Stylewise from Leon Haslam as we come up towards Druids now. God, look at this. Rutter at Druids, just away with the fairies again, isn't he? It's Haslam, it's not Haslam. What am I talking about? It's Haslam that's right behind Hayden at the moment. So Haslam has got a great start, and it's Gregorio Lavia that's behind him. Yeah.
All these bikes, 200 plus brake horsepower, but of course they remap the engine for wet conditions. They soften the power, they make it a lot more rideable so they can get rear grip, and they're not absolutely sideways everywhere, but they're still a very tricky job to ride.
I was actually talking to Gregorio this morning, and he's really not that keen on the wet weather conditions at all, and I think it's showing. He said the Brits are used to riding in the wet.
Well, I think some of the Spaniards are as well, but at a racetrack he's had hardly any mileage on. I tell you, Oulton Park is a daunting place. There's only one man that I know that got together with this straight away. Harris has gone through already on Glenn Richards. So, well, I suppose you could be smart and say we were looking at Carl Harris as being Oulton Park's revelation, if you like, but
he's
really
no
didn't have to be too smart, did you?
He's no revelation. Carl Harris is a hugely talented rider and could have gotten a Superbike last year and run at the front. It's taken him a little while to get going this year, get that bike sorted out, but this is no further up than we expected him to be.
I'll tell you, this will be good for Honda as well. That's Michelin's in front, Dunlop's behind them, so all manufacturers of tyres. It's quite clever of Honda the way they've constructed their team this year. It's got 3 parts to it, really. You've got the HM Plant boys, the full works guys of Chianari and Rutter up front. Then you've got Carl Harris, a single rider on that particular motorcycle on the hondaracing.co.uk. And then you've got the Red Bull rookies guys. There is Haslam, still looking at the rear end of James Hayden. Hayden just needs a good, mature ride here. He can do without doing some of the things that some of the fans would have you believe that he does a little too often. That'll make my sense there.
You know, last year on the Virgin Yamaha, he didn't do a lot of crashing. I think he had one off, and I think he surprised a lot of riders. And he said he had a new mature ride, a new mature approach to riding, and it certainly looked that way last year.
I think he needed a few years on his age, you know, Hayden. He was one of those guys that he's so unbelievably enthusiastic. His eyes are always out on stalk. He's always really, really keen to get on the motorcycle, want to do the business. And I think that translated quite often into an overly aggressive style. And you just can't always make him go forward with aggression.
You can't knock his enthusiasm. He's certainly brought a breath of fresh air to the Rizla Suzuki team.
Straight round the outside of Glenn Richards.
Nice place to do it in front of the team.
Good drive out of Deersleep and just rode round the outside of Glenn Richards. And not a lot of people do that, ladies and gentlemen. Rutter leads by 3 seconds already from Harris in 2nd place, Hayden now 3rd, and really John Reynolds is sitting here with us. John, difficult for you to watch, I would imagine.
Well, you know, I mean, it's fantastic. There is the Suzuki's up there. James is doing a good job, and the weather conditions are really playing into James. You know, he's not had a lot of time on the bike, so the racing's going to be quite a bit slower. So, you know, he's doing a fantastic job. In fact, he's looking like he's charging, and he could make even better place in 3rd.
I think for John's obviously he's looking at his own bike there, but there's no question that it's John's ride and James is standing in from it. It's doing everyone a world of good here.
That's what I like about Neil. Of course, Neil is a very quiet team manager from Rizla Suzuki. You kind of work hand in hand with these guys. You know more about than what you let on sometimes, but that's a difficult fence to walk along the top of, I've got to say. I mean, I'm giving you credit rather than trying to knock you back.
No, I was telling you how it is.
Still it is. Haslam, though, looking a bit businesslike behind Hayden. Still Glenn Richards on bike 75. That's the Airways Ducati of Leon Haslam. Haslam very, very unlucky with a warm-up lap coming together with Carl Harris in race 1. Ripping his brake lever off. There's not a lot you can do with that one of them. And having to start from pit lane, still coming through brilliantly in race 1 to the podium.
One thing it is doing is drying up. It's drying up. The rain's gone off. We're only 3 laps out of 18 at the moment. Leon Haslam having a look down the inside into Lodge there. But these bikes work the tyres a lot harder than the Supersport bikes would, and they're going to take a fair amount of pounding as this track dries up.
I think we've got a ride-through penalty coming for Steve Brogan, the leader of the privateers at the moment. Jump start. I'm just looking at my monitor. I'm sure that's Brogy who's got the ride-through penalty. He leads the privateers by a long way, and now we know why. And a ride-through is going to kill his race. Still looking at 18 on the Rizzo Suzuki. That's James Hayden from the Airwaves Ducati of 91. Leon Haslam behind them, the Hawk Kawasaki of Glenn Richards. But leading out front is Michael Rutter from Carl Harris, who is the fastest man out on the racetrack at the moment. Carl Harris has stuck in the fastest lap of the race, so he's closing down Michael Rutter. A 2.9 second lead was Rutter over Harris last time out. We're at Shell.
Leon Haslam looking quite menacing behind James Hayden there on the Airwaves Ducati.
Yep, but one thing we all know about James Hayden is that he is a proper racer. He is not going to be intimidated by the likes of Haslam all over him, that is for sure.
No, he is a Sunday man. He obviously tests well and qualifies well, but Sundays are what he wants, or Mondays in this case, is what he specialises in.
Got to say, I'm really impressed with the way he gets on with this motorcycle. He looks like he's absolutely taken to it straight away. He looks smooth and calm. From
the first session, you could tell just with his body language that he did look at home. His riding style suits it. The bike is a well-proved motorcycle. It's no surprise that it's winning in AMA. Matt Bladden's taking off. Troy Corser's winning in World Superbike with his teammate Yuki Kaneyama. So the K5 Suzuki is a world-beating bike.
And having said that, the Ducati that they said it was all over for is in front of the Suzukis regarding the championship at the moment. And Haslam looking at the inside of Hayden. Hello, James. I'll take that place. Thank you very much. Lovely move. Absolute class move from Leon Haslam. Hard to believe his age compared with his experience. I'm talking about Haslam. He's been around for an eternity, and he's still only, what, 21 years old?
Yeah, 125 GPs, 250 GPs, MotoGPs, Superbike, Supersport. Not a lot that Leon hasn't done. There's Gary Mason down in the gravel.
Gary Mason, well, he got his best ride for Eddie Stobbart Honda in race 1, but you've got to say, no mistake really with something like that. Well, I just tucks it under in front of Scott Smart. Scott was lucky not to have got caught up in that, but Mason had such pace, he was a long way in front of him by the time the front folded under him. Well, he gets a 5.9 for artistic interpretation anyway.
And John was right, Sean Emmett is charging through the pack, up to 6 at the moment.
Who else is? James Buckingham leads the Privateer, the Superbike Cup category, the race within this race, which James Buckingham on the Key Gary Suzuki has looked so good. He's down in 19th overall, but leads the Privateers at the moment. Now look at this. Leon Haslam has pulled the pin. Oh, don't do that.
He's getting grip on the pin.
We won't want too much of that. 15, Dean Ellison is a faller at Lodge, but he's perfectly okay. So Dean Ellison is out as well on the Gentin Racing Yamaha. He's having a torrid time this year. Can't make it work. In fact, Gareth Glynn, his teammate, who's in the Cup race, is actually riding faster at most of the tracks at the moment.
There's a dry line appearing. You see up Clay Hill there.
Yeah, you still wouldn't want to be pulling full throttle though, would you? It'd be a bit scary up and over the hill still. Haslam has well and truly eased away from Hayden now, and I just think that is a real mark of Hayden's maturity, the fact that he hasn't tried immediately to go with Haslam. If he had the pace, he would have done for sure, but the fact that he's actually prepared just to take a little bit longer at it. He's got a great feel for a motorcycle, James. It's just sometimes the old red mist, well, in the past, I'm talking about sort of pre-3 years, the old red mist used to descend over his eyes. Real good to have him back. I mean, he broke his wrist. Very difficult decision for Darryl Healy and Colin Wright at GSE when they had to make the decision to force him out. Who would have thought just a week or two later on we got John Reynolds in the commentary box here and Hayden's riding his bike. It's incredible. Never known a time like it.
It's what makes this sport interesting, but this is just an important piece of testing for James Hayden, getting to know the bike. and he can go to Mandela with a lot more confidence and fight in the front properly.
Hayden, of course, won't take anything out of the fact that the man who replaced him is 2 places behind him.
Yeah, nothing like a bit of revenge.
Haslam, in the meantime, is in that 3rd place still. Rutter from Harris. Harris has closed Rutter down. Rutter's just put in his personal best of the race, but Harris is only 1.7 seconds behind him, and that's less than 1.7, I'm sure. Here it is then. HM Plant Honda versus HondaRacing.co.uk, and that is going to be a special ride from Carl Harris. Well, he's just, you know, he never disappoints, Harris. He's, you know, sometimes you can make comments about people and they kind of don't quite come up to them. Carl Harris, he's the kind of guy that you can make these comments and sort of bring it on, and he does. He just gets better.
Well, you know, you always get 100% on race day and in practice with Carl, and he very, very rarely makes any mistakes. He's pretty much inch perfect. If he does make a mistake, he can control it. He's always got a bit of a safety margin.
I wonder what the situation is, and John, I know, wants to get in here. I wonder what the situation is regarding Honda with regard to Carl Harris beating Michael Rutter.
I don't think there'll be an issue there. I think Michael's got a lot of points, and I think Honda just won a free-for-all and let it go just like the business Suzuki team did last year. There was no team orders, and that's the way it should be. But getting on to Carl Harris, you know, he's a world-class rider, there's no doubt about it. In actual fact, he could have made a world-class motocross rider as well, I'm sure. And the natural ability on a motorcycle is coming through now. To catch Michael up the way he's doing at the moment is something quite extraordinary.
I remember the first time I did commentaries on Carl Harris, he was winning the European Superstock Series.
1999.
And he just pulled world-class wheelies. I mean, I've never seen celebrations like them. They've become fairly normal now around the paddock. But Carl Harris, still only, what, 25, 26 years old. You've got to say that got a lot ahead of him.
Yeah, he was my teammate a couple of years ago, and I said then when I was working with him, I could see he had something quite special, and I said then he was going to be a world champion, a future world champion. I'll still stick to that now.
Certainly looking good as it is at the moment in what are terribly difficult conditions. Leon Haslam has put up the fastest lap of the race now. Haslam is the quickest mover in 3rd place. Rutter, Harris, Haslam are your top 3. Hayden still 4th. Glenn Richards slipping half a second behind Hayden now. Lavia a further 4 seconds back on Richards. Emmett is making up a bit of space. He's 3 seconds adrift of Lavia, but he's in front of Smart by 4.8 seconds. That's how they're all spread out. I think the enthralling part of this race is, will he, can he, Carl Harris?
I think he can. We know he is a master in these conditions, but this guy, Leon Haslam, number 91, we've seen what he did at Brands last year on Ryan track under wet tyres.
Yeah, he's got the fastest lap on the last one, as JR quite rightly says. He's on the charge. But I think too it comes down to the fact that you know, what have the Dunlops got against the Michelins at this particular point? It's the first time we've had these drying type conditions, and it's going to be a question of whether Michelin have enough data at all of the tracks to have been providing the right tyres for Rutter out front. Dunlop know this kind of weather inside out.
They do, and the nature of the game is that when someone gets a bit of an advantage, the others will dig in, and Dunlop have been working really hard to match the input Michelin have put into the British Superbike Championship over the last 2 years.
Airwaves Ducati in 3rd place. Well, this really is a special kind of a race it's building to be at the moment. Michael Rutter expected to be out front. His experience in difficult conditions are second to none. Carl Harris, the up-and-comer in the Superbike class. This young man, Leon Haslam, a world-class rider. In fact, they're all world-class riders at the front of this field, so I don't need to really say that anymore, do I? But on the Airwaves Ducati, not reckoned to be the best motorcycle out on the racetrack overall nowadays, but still certainly. I wonder on the positioning of GSE as well. Darryl Healy, no mug at all, has come back into the championship after taking a year off after his World Championship foray, and got to reckon that he's got something up his sleeve as being the only official Ducati team here. He must be looking forward to when the V4 hits the marketplace and positioning himself for that.
Well, the Ducatis, Leon and Gregorio are the F04 bikes, the World Championship winning bikes from last year, so they are the best Ducatis in the world, with the exception of Laconi and Toslin's bike possibly this year in the World Superbike Championship. But I would be the first to say it was maybe looking bleak for Ducati from the middle of last season with the Japanese 4-cylinder 1000cc bikes gaining momentum, but I've got to eat my words. Ducati's still a very competitive package. Laconi is in World Superbike, and Gregorio Lavia second in the British Superbike Championship at the moment.
A little bit of rain possibly on some of our cameras there, whether we're getting another trickle out in pit lane. I know JR was having a good old look round him a moment ago here, and Well, nice to see the families here as well, John. We've got Ben and Shelley that just joined us in the back of the commentary box. Very social at Oulton Park. It's very kind of Jonathan Palmer to provide us with such an illustrious commentary position. Normally we're in a shed, Neil, which is probably where we deserve to be.
Locked in a box for 4 hours with you, Keith.
Yeah.
What more could you ask for?
You told me you enjoyed it.
I did. It's not as Leon Haslam there. He's got a yellow visor on, and
look at this.
And what that does is actually it makes it look like it's sunny outside. And apparently, the best advantage for one of these is the feel-good factor. It makes you feel like it's a nice day and you feel happy at your work.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, Carl Harris is going to be happy at his work as Leon goes up the high side on the very, very banked shell corner. You can't quite see it from our camera, but it is quite banked there. You can run on in deep and still pull it down to the apex if you make a mistake. But Rutter is well and truly under threat now, isn't he? He's got Carl Harris breathing right down his neck. And I thought for a moment that Carl Harris was going to have a bit of a go at Island Bend, which in the wet, oh dear me, I would have gritted my teeth and held myself together for that one. So, lap 9 of 18 we're on.
The rain is coming down, but I'm pleased about that because the tyres are wet tyres and really it's much fairer, it's much more level playing field when it's raining.
You can be pleased when we're sat in here in the warm. Oh,
yeah,
and
Leon is a bit
from
of
Leon, yeah.
Bit of a wriggly.
Well, it is Wrigley's airwaves, of course. You stand them up, I'll knock them down. Rutter on the HM Plant Honda at Druids. This is a great race now. It's really, really building up, hasn't it? They've done a lot of work to get right into contention with Michael Rutter. Rutter's been chipping away at it at the front of the field, up and down the board as far as his times are concerned. And there goes Carl Harris. So, Carl Harris heads a British Superbike race for the first time this year and looks so good out of Deer Leap and immediately stamps some authority over it, gets good drive onto the front straight. We're at Old Hall now,
There goes
and
Leon.
there's Leon. He cannot allow Carl Harris to get away if he's going to be in with any chance of winning this race. Just moves it across the front of Rutter. Rutter goes first to third within 3 corners. Harris, Haslam, Rutter. This could be the break of the run that HM Plant Honda have been having. 100% up until now. They have won races in 2005. There's Neil Tuxworth. Nothing much will be happening in his head. He'll be just sitting there relaxing, trying to absorb what's going on around him in his team. Really is a bit of a lottery when you choose tyres. Nothing they can do. They've got to rely on Michael to be able to come back at this. Still plenty of time left yet if Michael has left anything in the locker, but it looks like these two are just about to clear off. Well, bit of sun on some of the track. Looks like it's going to rain on other parts of the track. Here comes Leon.
They are the young pretenders of British Superbike.
Well, the Airwave Ducati hits the front for the first time now. Started out of pit lane in race 1. Came through brilliantly. This time, though, didn't let him have a head start.
Leon's looking really strong.
Yeah.
Ducati delivers the power really smoothly.
There are a couple of places on the track. It just looks like the Honda has a slight advantage, but certainly up and around this part of the track.
Well, Carl was looking comfortable. This is going to stretch him. This is going to see. We're going to see now if Carl does have anything in reserve.
Track still drying a little bit at the moment. Both the Dunlop shod runners are out front. 91, Leon Haslam, son of Rocket Ron Haslam, on the Airwave Ducati. Looking well placed as he gets it spinning up out of Deers Leap now. Behind him, Carl Harris, triple British Supersports winner. That's Colin Wright. That is Neil Tuxworth, team managers of Ducati and Honda, respectively. But Michael Rutter, the HM Plant part of the Honda team, is stuck back in 3rd place. It might be the first race meeting of the year where Michelin haven't had an advantage. Pretty much everywhere else, they've looked better. Marginally, very slightly better.
I have to say that I think James Hayden's probably catched up on Michael Rutter now.
Well, I can't imagine what that's going to cause in the Rizzo Suzuki camp if Hayden gets a podium position here this weekend. Adds to the extra tension down there, I have to say. Robert Wicks, the team manager, he's about 6'5" tall, Robert Wicks, but he looks like he's shrinking after just a few weeks of British Supersports racing. Taking over or deputising, whichever way you want to look at it, for Paul Denning, team owner, has moved across to the MotoGP team. That's Gareth Glynn. Gareth Glynn in the Superbike Cup team of the Gentin Yamaha setup, run by Bernie Tolman. And got to say, Gareth Glynn's come on real good this year. In the R6 Cup last year, looks really, really good. Really nice young man, finding his way very well in Superbikes. Haslam, Harris, Rutter. The difference between Haslam and Harris, 0.3 of a second. Rutter, 1.6 behind Haslam now. And Hayden, 2.9 seconds away from Rutter. That's the key figure to watch for. 2.9 seconds behind Rutter. See if Hayden can close the gap any on that.
The sun is coming out now. You can see the track is pretty much dry all the way around on the racing line, but Leon Haslam just eking out that gap, 0.3 in the last lap.
But it is spinning the rear end of his bike, Neil.
It really is, 0.9. He's taken...
You watch the rear end of the Ducati, it's just beginning to spin here and there. It's going to be a question of whether his choice is as good or better tyre-wise than...
both these guys ex-schoolboy motocrossers, so getting sideways is not a problem for them. Carl, I would say, will probably have the advantage in the off-road sticks skill-wise, but we'll have to wait and see.
Still Haslam. This is intriguing. Twin cylinder versus four cylinder. Who's going to make the rubber stick to the road the best as the conditions change throughout this 18-lapper? Well, it might not be the most spectacular. What was all that about? A big jump there for a moment. That's
just trying to think when we last did the Ducati win. Was it Sean Emmett at Thruxton last year?
Yep. Oh,
Carl's
there
wide.
goes Carlo. He's going to have a job to turn that off the grass in a hurry because it's wet out there. So Carl goes back to at least third now. It's going to be spinning for a moment or two.
James Hayden goes through.
Hayden goes through to third. So Haslam has been let off the hook, if indeed he was ever on one. Haslam leads on the Airwave Ducati.
Oh, big sideways action now. That rear tire spinning.
Tell you what is that going to do for the championship? Their first win. Let's take another look
into
at
the Folkestone chicane here. Carl gets in a bit hot, hits the paint, knows he can't brake on there. He has to run wide.
See, that's the old motocross experience that you've been babbling on about for the last I don't know how long. It came in handy. Well, I don't know, he stayed on it.
Yeah.
Most of them would have just asked for a load of throttle and gone sideways on the grass and not retrieved fourth place. So we've got Haslam now, Rutter, Hayden. Hayden's closing in as well on Rutter. 2.7 it's down to. He took a couple of tenths out of that last lap as well. So Hayden, well, there is time, but I just think that Rutter's pace is consistent enough to stay in second place at the minute. We'll have to wait and see if Hayden can pick up the places.
And what we've got now is 5 laps left on a very dry track with wet tyres. That is going to work these Dunlops real hard.
I remember Wayne Gardner and Ron Haslam on wet tyres at Salzburg for the Austrian Grand Prix, and all they did was spend the entire last 5 laps absolutely sideways at every single turn, going absolutely nowhere.
No middle in the tyres.
No middle in the tyres, but having a great time. And there is Ron Haslam, the said man of the moment. Darrell Healy to the left of your picture, Colin White to the right of your picture. What a bunch they are. Colin Wright, well, we had him on the top of our show last week out with some not controversial comments, but certainly plenty of forthright comments, as you would expect from that man. And of course, this week, some of them have actually come to fruition, in as much as that JR joins us in the commentary position and isn't riding. He did actually say he wouldn't run you, John.
It was actually actual fact, it was his fault. I got the cycling, was it?
I can categorically say Colin Wright has no influence on the Suzuki team, no matter what he said last week.
Well,
but everyone's a winner here. Leon Haslam might win here, and James Hayden, his ex-employee, might end up in the rostrum.
Yeah, I wonder how much they're going to enjoy that at Rizzler. Let's have a look.
Hayden
13.
and Harris.
Yeah, Hayden and Hayden. Well, Haslam and Rutter. Rutter is still there in. Where is the difference? Oh, half a second between Harris and Hayden. That's the race that we've got to watch. I tell you what, that Ducati looks to me like it's having a good old spin in different places now. It's really just a case of hanging on, isn't it?
It really is. I mean, the tyres will spin up. They won't fall apart. The centre might disappear from them. They will get some sort of traction, but on a dry track, it's not your ideal scenario.
It's just starting to get a bit wiggly when asked for full power onto the front straight.
Well, a smart rider knows once the tyre's spinning, you may as well back off the throttle and let it catch up. To keep it spinning is not a good option.
Haslam, Rutter, Hayden and Harris. Hayden now. Well, Hayden has pulled away a little bit from Carl Harris. Harris has dropped a tenth of a second.
You can see rubber coming off that tyre there.
I'll tell you what, that is a bit of a worry, though. He's still got a long way to go, and he's chucking out a lot of horsepower. You know, Dunlop would be panicking a bit about this, I would imagine, because it's the last thing you want to do is that great big middle of that tyre to come out. I'm sure it'll hang together, but I'm not sure. We're on lap 14 of 18. It's a long way round this racetrack, 2.6 miles.
Well, you see that +8 on his pit board, so he can afford himself to back off a little bit and maybe try and conserve a little bit of rear tyre.
An interesting note come up on our monitor here. Number
Hayden's nearly
Scott
caught Rutter for
Smart.
second.
And interesting, if you have a look at your monitor, please, Neil. 88 under observation, possible technical problem, rear tyre, and that is Scott Smart on the other Rizla Suzuki. So Hayden versus Rutter. Carl Harris is still in there. He's got a chance of picking this up yet. There could be a podium still on for Carl Harris despite his indiscretion at the chicane.
This really is a battle of tyres here. Michael Rutter obviously losing a bit of ground to Leon Haslam, and he's come back into the clutches of James Hayden and Carl Harris.
His board will have been telling him exactly how much they were taking out of him each lap as he comes past the
James Hayden looks like he's got a bit of chatter from the rear end as well, maybe a tyre coming apart.
Well, marshals all the way around the track here. The race safe marshals will be keeping an eye on what's going on and relaying stuff back to Stuart Higgs up in the race director's office. And it's interesting, I've not seen that on our monitor for some time about possible technical problems rear tyre for anybody, let alone Scott Smart. So Smarty definitely not having a great weekend. Only lap 15, still of 18 to go. Rutter has an 8-second, Haslam has an 8-second lead over Rutter. Rutter a half a second lead over Hayden, but you can see that anyway. Tell you what, Michael Rutter salvages second place from this. He's done good.
Haslam, Rutter, Hayden, Carl Harris fourth, Glenn Richards fifth, Julian DaCosta sixth.
You saw Hayden, well, he's on a Pirelli, of course, and now we know the Pirelli's working this. We heard from Christopher Oulton earlier, world Superbike rider, and he said the Pirelli's work real good. And the Frenchman, Julian DaCosta, on the MSS Kawasaki, and don't that team just need a bit of a fillip in their race programme this year at the moment? And it would really be, sixth place for DaCosta would be a great result for Pirelli. He's virtually the only guy that's running in the top teams out there on Pirelli. It wouldn't have been a case of him choosing, a gamble tyre, if you like, a dry tyre and it's drying out. I think it's more a case of the Pirelli hang in, have more overlap between the wet and the dry conditions.
They certainly seem to hold together. Obviously a harder tyre. Oh, Carl Harris wiggling around sideways, spinning up everywhere now. Trying all he can to try and get back in touch with James Hayden.
Glenn Richards is still in fifth place in front of DaCosta. Richards has a huge 20-second lead over DaCosta. DaCosta has just got rid of Kieran Clark. Sean Emmett is still in 8th place. Jonathan Ray on the Red Bull Rookies bike is aiming for his best result in the Superbike so far on his Honda in 9th place. Steve Plater on the Sendo Kawasaki is in 10th place. Gregorio Oliveira has slipped down to 11th place on bike 36. If you were wondering where he is, the Spaniard not having a great time, second time out here. John Kirkham is the other Sendo Kawasaki man in 12th place at the moment.
James Hayden doing all he can to get in the wet bits, trying to get the temperature down on his Dunlops there. You can see him, he's wiggling around a bit more out of lodge compared to Michael Rutter. Michael Rutter trying to keep it really smooth, but James Hayden, he's matching Michael Rutter's lap times at the moment. That last lap, Michael Rutter 148.3, James Hayden 148.2.
Carl Harris, one that's spinning very, very badly now. Carl Harris all over the track. DaCosta has the fastest lap of the race, 146.2. So the Frenchman, Julian DaCosta on the MSS Discovery Kawasaki, really is doing the business out there. He's a great talent. Came and joined the Superstocks class last year and blitzed some of the, should we say, more established riders at some of the tracks he'd never seen before. Moved on up into the Superbike class with MSS and Discovery, and really, well, I would say his tyre disadvantage in the dry has been Pirelli, but certainly his advantage here in these changeable conditions is definitely down to Pirelli.
Carl Harris seems to be a bit stronger on the brakes, a bit more feeling from the front, but spinning the rear up a bit. But Leon Haslam's doing a brilliant job at the front there. The gap has come down to 5.7 seconds between himself and second place Michael Rudd, so he's just playing it cool. Lap 16 out of 18. He can afford to lose a second a lap and just conserve his tyres a bit.
Well, I'm sure his dad's giving him a right pit board out here at the moment as Carl Harris. Harris is harrying Hayden. Really, he's looking for a way past. He's going to find a way past, I feel, too. Only at the end of lap 16 of the 18 laps, so not long to go now. No chance of catching Haslam. He's made it, and there goes Harris. I was going to say, it didn't look like he was going to waste much more time on Hayden. Question is whether Hayden can lay the power of that big Suzuki down and find a way back past Harris. Certainly Harris looks good through Deers Leap. There's going to be bits of tyre all over this racetrack by the time we've finished here. I bet they're vibrating like hell at the rear end.
Carl Harris looking good, looking smooth. Made one mistake in this whole race and it cost him a bit of time, but there's still time, a lap and a half left still to get in tow, and Michael Rutter still to get his second position on the rostrum, his second rostrum.
I think Carl Harris's tyre's breaking on this.
Yeah.
I can see a bit of a mark in there in the middle of it.
It looked to me like he got a sticker on the tyre still, didn't it? So keep an eye on the rear tyre. Certainly if he makes it to the end. I can't wait to have a look and see what they look like when they're in the Parc Fermé, because they are going to be absolutely trashed.
It's very difficult to discipline yourself. You want to open that throttle because you know opening that throttle makes you go forward, but when the tyre's spinning up, it just...
Carl Harrison discipline when there's a race for second place to be had, it just worries me slightly when you say that.
Carl Harris's tyre's definitely broken up now, so there's no middle left in it at all.
Which is getting to be dangerous, and I'm sure everybody's keeping an eye on what's going on. Haslam, Rutter, Harris, Hayden, Richards still in 5th place, DaCosta still in 6th place. In fact, DaCosta has made up 10 seconds on Glenn Richards.
Carl had a massive slide there, sorry about that, guys.
Do you know what? I've never known a man jump out of the seat as much as you do, John Reynolds.
I'm a worse spectator. I'm a worse spectator than I'm a rider.
You gave me a heart attack, John.
The man of your age is no recovery.
There's no cure.
Through Druids and Carl Harris, that might have been the warning he actually needed to lay off the rear end. Look at this, how close we are to Leon Haslam. And Scott Smart has retired into pit lane already, so Scott Smart has retired, but Leon Haslam, he hasn't won this yet, and he has been caught virtually. Haslam over the line now. And how far behind? 2.1 seconds Rutter behind Haslam. Harris is just 1.1 seconds behind Rutter. Hayden is another second adrift. Then we've got a long wait back to Glenn Richards on the Hawk Kawasaki and Julian DaCosta on the MSS Discovery Kawasaki, which is an interesting racing itself, in as much as that DaCosta took 10 seconds out of Richards in that last couple of laps.
It's interesting how this race is toed and frozen. You've got to say at this point, it's looking like the Dunlop guys are struggling the most with their wet tyres and dry conditions.
DaCosta took 5 seconds out of Richards on that particular lap as well, so DaCosta could end up with a 5th place here on this final lap at the moment.
Leon having a quick look, see if there's anyone in his peripheral vision.
And there is. At Shell Corner, everyone's in your peripheral vision if they're close enough. Leon Haslam comes up to Britain's corner, and Rutter might just keep the 100% record of HM Plant Honda. This could be the best judge race of his career, because he was absolutely miles behind Haslam. Haslam has got a real race on his hands now. Rutter is closing in. We're on the last lap. Airways Ducati versus HM Plant Honda, and the Honda looks strong, and the Honda's gone by on the flip-flop. No, it's not. Rutter almost took himself out. He took the place, and then Haslam forced his way back. That's it, done and dusted. Haslam has had more handlebar bashing sessions this weekend than ever before. First it was Carl Harris he had a contretemps with on the warm-up lap of race 1. Then he had another session with him at the hairpin in race 1. Now it's Michael Rutter, who looked like he was going to go through on the flip-flop through the middle of that chicane. Rutter was confident, Haslam was just brutal.
Good save from Michael Rutter. You can't knock him for having to go, but Leon Haslam worked hard for this race win, and he managed to keep it together. Michael Rutter did well not to go down and keep his 2nd place.
He did, he was right on the white line. It is Haslam that takes the 2nd race win of the day and spoils the party at HM Plant Honda. They will have to make do with 2nd place and an increased lead in the championship. An absolutely superb ride then for Leon Haslam, just managing to hold off Michael Rutter into 2nd place. Carl Harris up on the podium again. James Hayden just thwarted in his debut ride for Rizla Suzuki 2005. Julian DaCosta, a brilliant 5th place for him, just deposing Glenn Richards in the closing stages on the MSS Kawasaki. Absolutely superb. Steve Plater ending up in 7th place, and Kieran Clark in 8th. Jonathan Ray, his best result of the year, I think, so far on the Red Bull Honda. He's a rookie, of course. Michael Laverty there in 10th place on the Stobart Honda. Sean Emmett only 11th for him. John Kirkham, Christian Palmer and Ben Wilson, the 2 Vivaldi boys, in 13th and 14th place. And Dean Thomas, in the end, the fastest lap went to Dean Thomas, but still only a point for 15th place. Gregorio Lavia off of the point scoring positions. Michael Rutter then dominating now for HM Plant Honda, even though their 100% record is gone. Gregorio Lavia just 4 points in front of Glenn Richards. Ryoichi Kiyanari slips all the way down to equal 4th with the uprising Leon Haslam. Carl Harris in 6th place, Sean Emmett 7th and Dean Thomas 8th. That's how it looks after Oulton. And James Buckingham now 7 points in front of Steve Brogan. James Buckingham brilliant here at Oulton Park in the Superbike Cup. Marty Nutt on the Honda, the Ulsterman, finishing in third place. We've got to go from you. Hope you enjoyed our coverage from John Reynolds, Neil Mackenzie, myself, and of course Lee Mackenzie reporting from pit lane. Hope you enjoyed the action. Do join us again. Remember, the Irish round of the Bennett's British Superbike Championship is coming up.